My husband's getting deployed overseas very soon, and I decided to invite both families for a cookout/goodbye party for him before he leaves. My cousin and I aren't close. She married 3 times and has 2 kids. She divorced her first husband because he left work and became a stay-at-home parent. Divorced her second because he didn't do chores and kept working long hours. Now her current husband, Tom, or Tommy, does nothing. He contributes nothing to chores. In fact, she does everything for him, while he just hangs out with friends and plays video games most of the time. I know this because she constantly complains to Mom and Aunt about it. My cousin's reasoning for choosing him is that he has so many other great features. I have got to say he is handsome and one of the most gorgeous guys she's ever been with, but he's rude, loud, talks back, has an awful sense of humor, if at all, and money has clearly stunted his growth mentally. On to the encounter. At the cookout, everyone was sitting after we ate, and my husband was giving a little speech about what he's been experiencing at the moment and giving sincere goodbyes to his mom and dad and little sister. He then talked about us and how much he'll miss our little ones. It was emotional till my cousin carelessly interrupted us and playfully said it wasn't like my husband was dying or isn't coming back in a few months, then said she had big news. Everyone looked at her as she smiled and said she was pregnant. She always interrupts things like my proposal and my baby shower to make her announcements. I got mad seeing the attention instantly drew on her, getting hugs and congrats. My husband seemed irritated and got quiet. I just got up from my seat, feeling confused about how to react. I told my cousin, "Hey, listen, I know you're so happy to be able to keep Tommy's sperm as pets, but this is a goodbye party for Kevin, so your happy news should be shared another time, another place." Families were split. Some were laughing and some got upset. My cousin, almost crying silently, left the yard as Aunt followed. I got nasty looks from my side of the family. Then both Mom and Aunt berated me for my inappropriate reaction and my response, making such a disgusting comments about my cousin's pregnancy and humiliating her like that. I explained that this was yet another attempt from her to hijack another occasion I host. I said this in the heat of the moment. Still, Aunt saw nothing wrong with sharing good news and demanded I apologize for ruining my cousin's moment and making her feel awful. I feel awful too, and think I was insensitive with how I responded. Am I the idiot? Edit. Why I invited my cousin in the first place, knowing she's pulled this before. I caved into my mom and aunt's pressure to include every member in the family in every event my husband and I host. My husband was getting heavily emotional while we were talking about our little ones. I'm sure everyone noticed but got distracted when my cousin announced her pregnancy. Tommy didn't react at all. He just kept a straight face and didn't even get up from his seat. LOL, no, you are not the idiot, but you are a legend. I'm gonna use that line, haha. Can your aunt and cousin not read a freaking room? She had this moment twice already. This ain't her first pregnancy announcement, and it doesn't sound like it'll be her last. So if your comment was tasteless, so was her timing. Your cousin is a huge idiot. She knew what she was doing. She deliberately undermined the event and your husband's moment to make herself the center of attention for the rest of the evening. While you could have probably chosen a more diplomatic way to refocus the evening on your husband, she needed to get put in her place. It wasn't like this was her first kid. Your family seems to also enable her bad behavior if they see nothing wrong with hijacking a big moment from the host of the event, especially if she's got a history of doing this. I'm gonna go with not the idiot because you didn't plan what you said, and I'm darn sure she did. Was your comment off color? Yes. Your comments on her marriages are also kinda mean and none of your business. That said, my suggestion is to not invite her to future events. Blood doesn't entitle people to be part of your life. You literally can do it. You're an adult, and it's your house. By not being willing to have unpleasant talks with your family about the cousin not being invited, you are setting everyone up to have a bad time. You have some agency here. Use it. Not the idiot. She not only stole your husband's thunder, but she also made light of his future at his expense to prop up her news. Doesn't matter if he might be injured, traumatized, or worse. Let's focus on the new baby. Next time, interrupt her birth. Burst in and say, "Excuse me, but I have some big news. I just saved 15% by switching my auto insurance." OP, keep your gatherings for loved ones and keep being awesome. I, teen female, live with my parents, uncles, aunts, and toddler cousin. My uncle and aunt keep wanting me to spend long portions of my life watching my little cousin. My parents think I have to help out, and it comes from their misogynist beliefs that I must do this childcare since I'm a girl. I have refused to do it. I go to school and I work at a movie theater part-time. I was free one day, and my friends had invited me to go to Disneyland the night before and said that they would come to pick me up. I was getting ready in the morning and was taking a shower when I got a call from my uncle. He said he and his wife just pulled out of the neighborhood and needed to watch my cousin since they knew I didn't have school or work. My uncle went to work. I don't know where my aunt went. I said they need to come back because I have plans, but they basically said tough and hung up. I kept calling, but they wouldn't answer. My parents were at work and refused to come home. My grandparents didn't want to come watch my cousin. I texted my uncle that I had just gotten picked up by my friend and wouldn't be home until the night or maybe tomorrow. That was a lie. I had not left. He saw the text and returned home. When he returned home, I hid in the backyard and then escaped outside with some stuff that I was bringing. Then my friends picked me up down the street, and we went to Disneyland. My cousin was never left alone. I ignored calls from my parents, uncle, and aunt. They were furious when I got home, even after I explained I never actually abandoned my cousin. Not the idiot. They abandoned their child by leaving the house without making sure childcare was available. Their child is not your problem or responsibility. Your parents are awful too. Pulling that crap was on them. I feel bad for your little cousin, but two grown people who had a baby are responsible for securing appropriate childcare for their child. They have no right to try to force you into free or paid childcare. If you say no, they need to make other arrangements, period. You're a sneaky little brat. I like you. They should have solidified their childcare plans in advance, and unless it was some type of emergency, not the idiot. You're not a free babysitter, and they can't expect to just dump that on you out of the blue and expect you to be okay with it. Wow, some people shouldn't have children, and dare I say your aunt and uncle qualify. Just leaving a child alone in the house while you were showering, unaware of the child's presence, just unreal. Good for you for forcing your uncle to be a father. I can understand people's being upset. I mean, they've come to rely on you to care for this child, and everyone has memorized your schedule. How dare you have a life? You are not the idiot. And because you are so flighty and unable to be counted on, they will stop forcing this poor child on you. I, female 30, have an older brother, Thomas, 43. His first wife passed, leaving him with my niece, and he remarried 2 years later. My dad and uncle inherited 2 lands from my grandfather. Dad left his land after it was split for Thomas and me, but Thomas sold it without my knowledge and kept all money for himself. I couldn't do anything about it because I barely had the money for college, and because sister-in-law said if I tried to do anything about it, I'd never see my niece. But I went no contact and couldn't establish a relationship with my niece anyway, even though I used to take care of her when she was little. She's now a teen born with a health condition and had her first operation at age 1. I later inherited the other land my uncle had after he disowned Thomas. I sold it and spent money on necessities and used the rest to fund my upcoming wedding. Thomas reached out recently and we spoke a few times. He kept mentioning my niece struggling with her health condition again. He asked if I wanted to meet her, but I wanted time. After a few more conversations, he said he needs help paying for her upcoming surgery and asked if I could help with money. He brought up my uncle's land and the money I put aside for my wedding. I was shocked. I asked how he knew all that. He said he's been talking to a friend, mutual, and he told him everything. A mutual friend said Thomas spent the money from the land on several expensive golfing trips and anniversary celebrations with his wife. He's now in debt, struggling to pay for my niece's medical expenses. I said sorry, but there was nothing I could do to help. He kept trying to convince me my wedding can wait. My niece should matter to me, reminding me that I'm the only family he has left, and I should consider helping him for my niece's sake, not his. I reminded him of what he did to me years ago and how he left me to struggle for myself. I said he was lucky I didn't sue him for the money he owed me. He said that was his wife's idea. He was stupid and regretted listening to her. Then said I could still sue them, but since they'll go to jail because they can't pay me back, my niece would become my responsibility. He said I could hate him all I want, but he's just asking for my niece. He pressured me to go see her, but I felt highly uncomfortable doing that. We had a heated argument after he tried to get my fiance to postpone the wedding. Ended up telling him to leave, and he said, okay, we'll talk again. But I said all I had to say. Yet he let my friends know, and they asked what's wrong with me prioritizing my wedding over my niece. Thomas then emailed me, saying I can't blame him for trying to help his kid, and that he knew I'm a better person than he is, and I will do this out of the goodness of my heart. He said he'd pay me back with his wife's inheritance once her father passes, which he doesn't know when, but he hopes soon enough. I'm still dumbfounded by what he said. The thing is, I've always wanted a beautiful wedding, and because I got stuck with student loans for so long, I still live in a small place, still haven't gone on trips I wanted, still haven't achieved most of what I wanted to do. I'm 30, and I feel like life has already passed me by. So if I let Thomas get my wedding fund, I'll have to start saving for my wedding. Not the idiot. Anyone who's harassing you about this is not your friend. It may be that he has given them a twisted version of his narrative, and you can clear that up. But if they continue to harass you about delaying your wedding and giving money to your brother for his child, then they are definitely not your friends. Thomas is not a family man. Knowingly sold appropriated land and kept the proceeds, and instead of saving money for family purposes, he squandered it on extravagant luxuries. He is a snake. He will say anything to get OP's money. For heaven's sake, he is blaming his wife for the land sale. He kept niece away from OP, even though she did not go through with the lawsuit. This guy is the embodiment of a narcissist, selfish, and self-centered human. No contact would be in order. Not the idiot. If him stealing your money was all his wife's idea, and he's regretted it since, why didn't he give you a call before being in debt and his daughter needing surgery? Someone who is truly guilted would have gotten in contact with you sooner just to apologize. If you have rented the food, venue, cake, etc., have passwords with the vendors if he even tries to call them saying that the wedding has been postponed or canceled. He's crossing lines by talking to your circle. Strongly agree with this and would like to add that they will never give you your sister-in-law's inheritance. If they were planning on that, they should ask her father for the money now. It either does not exist or they have plans for it that do not include paying you back. So I, 18 female, live with my mom, 45, and dad, 53. My cousin, Cameron, 23 male on my dad's side, had started studying at a trade school near where we live. The trade school is just a 10-minute walk from our house. Mom and dad offered Cameron to stay with us in the guest bedroom while he's studying at trade school. Otherwise, he would have to travel over an hour to get there every morning in his car. Cameron took up the offer and moved in with us 4 days ago. I'm not particularly close with my cousin Cameron, and I don't know much about him. Cameron is a lot closer to my dad, who he considers his favorite uncle. The bedroom he is staying in is upstairs on the second floor, directly across from my bedroom. Usually in the middle of the night, I wake up at like 2 to 3 a.m. to pee. Last night I woke up at around 2 a.m., only to notice a figure standing at the foot of my bed, looking down on me and mumbling to himself. I realized immediately it was Cameron, and my mind immediately went to the worst possible explanation, and I naturally freaked out. I jumped out of the bed and started screaming for mom and dad, while racing out of the room past Cameron, straight to my parents' room. I know it might sound over the top in hindsight, but I was seriously petrified. Well, as it turns out, Cameron was sleepwalking. None of us, including my mom and dad, or me, knew that Cameron was a sleepwalker. After my parents realized what was going on, my dad confronted Cameron in my bedroom. When he turned the lights on, it was immediately evident that Cameron was still asleep, into sleepwalking. When Cameron woke up and heard what happened, he was extremely offended by my reaction. He said he can't believe that I would ever think he would do something like that in a million years. I told him that any person in my position who wakes up at 2 a.m. to a man standing at the foot of their bed, looking down on them, is going to freak out the same way I did. I also pointed out that he never told me or anyone else in the family that he sleepwalked. So naturally, my mind didn't go to that conclusion. My parents are on my side. They are both pretty upset because they never would have put Cameron in an upstairs bedroom if they knew he was a sleepwalker. After all, he could have fallen down the stairs while sleepwalking. Cameron is very offended and angry. He is especially hurt that my dad, his favorite uncle, didn't defend him. Cameron's parents are also on his side. They think it's extremely horrible that I would come to that kind of conclusion about their son. They think I overreacted horribly. So, I want to know, was I an idiot? Not the idiot. If I found someone standing over me at 2 a.m., I would be screaming like a banshee. Of course, your cousin is probably embarrassed, but that doesn't excuse his reaction. Honestly, he's lucky you weren't the type to keep a bat near your bed and be ready to use it. The moment he moved in and didn't tell anyone he was a sleepwalker, he was wrong. He could have fallen and done damage to himself or the house. He did walk in and scare the crap out of someone living there. All preventable. Not the idiot. It's pretty normal to freak out when you wake up to someone standing over you in the middle of the night. He absolutely should have warned you that he sleepwalks. If you'd known what was going on, you could have either locked your door so he wouldn't accidentally wander in, or woken him up and told him to go back to bed when you found him. Instead, he scared the crap out of you and caused you to wake everyone else up in a panic. Agree, not the idiot. Cameron should totally have told your family he occasionally sleepwalks for his own safety. If he's staying, you should get a lock on your door and lock it at night. Not because you suspect him of anything nefarious, but so that you don't get woken up by him randomly walking around. You don't need your sleep disturbed either. My older sister, Mia, is due to get married in 2 weeks. My middle sister, Lucy, was supposed to be a maid of honor, but pulled out a week ago. It caused quite the stir, but she told our parents and me that the reason she pulled out is that Mia had asked us all to meet her at the hotel early so we could set up everything that morning. She told Lucy she got a special price on the room in the hotel because she agreed that they wouldn't need to provide or put up decorations, that she would get that taken care of. Lucy was asked to purchase some, and she planned to ask our parents and me to buy some, but this is all going to be a last-minute day before the wedding thing, so she only told Lucy because she was the maid of honor, and Mia figured Lucy would figure it out before the whole thing. Lucy was angry and refused to take part in it though. After finding out the plan, I decided not to go to the wedding and told Mia. Mia is angry. She said we're her family and she'd be more than willing to help her. And the fact we're just not helping, but refusing to attend, makes us crappy. Is she right? Am I the idiot? Edit to add, for some context on stuff with us, she has pulled different stuff before. We had planned something for her 25th birthday, but she told us she had booked a weekend thing with us to celebrate and then left us to pay for the whole thing, even down to her getting a makeover at the place. It was so much more expensive than what we had planned. She offered to help me and my boyfriend move into our place, then sent someone who expected to be paid by us and not her. Not the idiot. Your job doesn't involve being a venue decorator. That's the job of the venue themselves. Unfortunately, your sister has bridezilla vibes here, and she would do well to remember that you're her sister. The bride took the rent an empty room rate and plans all along to scam her family into last-minute decorating. Not the idiot. She's asking everyone to put like $1,000 down and then do the work of professional decorators? That's completely unreasonable. You're not unwilling to help. You're unwilling to get ambushed at the last minute with a manipulative attempt to put her wedding cost onto you without any discussion. Everyone's the idiot here. Your sister sucks for trying to spring a last-minute request for you to spend money on decorations for the wedding. That's not your job to cover those costs. You and your sister Lucy suck because you shouldn't pull out of your sister's wedding entirely over decorations. You can always just tell her you won't be paying for any decorations and set some boundaries. If she decides to remove you from the wedding at that point, it's on her.